We've been floating the Bow River today, and really this is like a mile-long outturn bend that if you're fishing at the peak of summer, all that kind of stuff. I mean, there's so many fish stacked on these seams, the obvious water. A guy could just fish the outturns and all that kind of stuff and hit the obvious water. Now, we're floating along and you're saying that maybe we should have a look on the inside. And why?
Well, sometimes just to fish some of that unsuspecting water. I'm not saying that I'm the first person that did it, but it's one of those spots that everybody definitely likes to look at that big high bank. I love the look of that high bank, and I've fished it a ton of times, and I've definitely moved some great fish off of it. But then you know, look behind you every once in a while and have a look at what you're missing.
Yeah.
And it's funny, you see these little riffles, and you know what I tell people all the time, if it looks fishy on the Bow River, it's probably pretty fishy.
And the funniest thing is, especially this year, because these fish are essentially mouse ear. Like, you've heard of the mouse ear phenomenon in New Zealand.
Yeah.
These fish are as fat on the bow this year as any mouse ear fish in New Zealand. And they're just feed troughs. Something so subtle as an inside trough like what's right behind us. And, you know, in all honesty, Amelia and I have fished this a couple times this year, this exact trough, and we've moved some, you know, 21, 23-inch rainbows that are just, you look at the water and you think, there's not really much water there, but any subtle transition in depth or current, and with the water boatman hatch that we're having, you know, other times of year, like the golden stonefly hatch that you love.
Sure. It'd be fantastic.
Exactly. So we're gonna have a go at this seam just behind us, and I think you're gonna do some aerial footage and we'll see what happens here.
I'll show these folks what we're gonna cast. A little bit different, but it's a little caddis pupa, really simple pattern to tie, you know, really not very much to it. You know, a bright little body like a pupa would have, some little peacock curl and a bead. It just gets down underneath that the hopper or Turk's tarantula that we have now. That's kind of irrelevant. We're seeing that as an indicator right now, but we want it to get down pretty quick in front of the face and get a nice long drift.
And how, you know, this water out here is like probably a 4 foot, maybe 5 foot from the shallow to the to the trough, and the idea is we're down what, about 2.5 feet off the essentially the indicator, and what we're doing is trying to find those active fish that are kind of coming up, going left, right, that kind of thing. They've got maybe a 4 foot feeding window, and we're just trying to get that within that window without spooking them.
And that bright fly should ideally, you know, fingers crossed, do exactly that.
Yeah, so as we were saying, a really subtle seam like that on the Bow River has all sorts of nice, gorgeous little subtle deflections and dips on the bottom. Little things that you don't see when you're first looking at it, but the subtlest of habitat on the bow can have a fish like that, and they're just absolutely gorgeous fish. So we're just gonna let that go. Aaron was good enough to tie on a little caddis pupa. And hopefully you should just be able to do that. And then we'll refocus on that fish. There we go. Yeah, just absolutely incredible where these huge Bow River rainbows hold. You think it's nothing water, but they're right in those seams and it's just perfect, absolutely perfect water. So once again, that inside seam, that water is just epic, and these fish are just putting on the feedback here on the bow this year. I mean, this is crazy. So we're gonna let them go? Yeah. Okay. There it goes. Wow, that's just amazing.
We were talking this morning with Dave and Amelia, and they had fished this yesterday. They said that they've got a whole bunch of fish all through the back of this pretty subtle run that we were talking about, and they didn't get that many fish at the front of it. We started fishing it at the back, didn't move too many fish, got one sort of mid and on the inside seam, and now we were just talking as we were going that maybe they're nosed up a little bit higher in the front of it, and sure enough, got another fish. We still haven't touched it and we're gonna get back at it, which I'm really looking forward to. But the other side of it is, just because you got the fish at the back and you don't get them there, you know, got them at the back of the run yesterday, and you want to fish it today and that's where you think they're going to be, you know what, fish the whole run. They'll move up, they'll move down depending on what the bugs are doing, what hatch cycle they're in, temperature.
Oh, yeah.
Could be a whole bunch of different things in the fish's psyche, which we always love to try to predict. That's what I'm talking about. Woo!
Yeah.
One there.
How's that, Amelia?
I love it, thank you.
Awesome, dude. Oh yeah.
Maybe they're just all stacked right up in the top
I'm
part
wondering
of
if that's where they are today, yeah.
that. Come on, head up, head up. Oh boy. There we go.
Silver. Wow. Look at the chunk on that.
Look at that orange spot on it.
That's neat, eh? Yeah.
So this is a real chromy
Yeah.
colored rainbow, hey?
Yeah.
Wow,
Pretty-
yeah, you can see that. Fatty.
silver
Nice.
fish.
Up one more time.
Right on.
So, I'm not sure if you've ever had the opportunity. Oh! He's gone.
Had the opportunity of
You saw
releasing a
that fish.
trout.
I did catch one, and I was able to get out there. After Dave caught that fish, he was playing around with his fly, so I snuck in before he had the chance. Hit that spot up, and we got another nice rainbow.
As we could see, and it was full of spunk. Awesome, man. been in the same run and caught a couple big fish, doing the same thing as we talked about, just casting up our dry fly and dropper right into the head of it. I said, man, it's my turn. And sure enough, go in there and, well, score this beauty. Just went a little further to the head of this seam, and sure enough, I get this absolute beauty, which honestly, I think is the biggest of the 4 we've caught out of this riffle. I'll take it. I'm happy.
Gotta collect my thoughts here. It's just amazing. On a river the size of the Bow River here, what are we at? 75, 80 yards across. And when you first come to a river like this, you just go, man, that's a lot of water. That's a huge amount of water. But what you have to start doing is breaking it down. If you fish little creeks, little streams, you're used to fishing little buckets, you're used to seam lines, you know, all sorts of different structure. And on these sides of rivers, if you look and you see that little seam right behind us, we, you know, at the start we said, well, let's go and see if we can't catch something there. There's big fish, and there's lots of fish sitting in these things. And that's part of breaking down a river. We got 4 good rainbows. I bet you we probably landed 17 or 18 pounds of rainbow trout. And don't forget the little guy. And that's just because you look around and you say, hey, let's try something different. Let's go see if those fish are feeding off that inside flat, that little seam, that little depression, that little bucket. There's all sorts of these kinds of things on these rivers. And when you break down the high bank, it always looks good. Everybody's always enticed and looking at those high banks. But sometimes the short bank on the inside is just dynamite. And I don't think there's anybody that's watching this video would say, no, I don't want to fish that. No, you want to fish that. It's intimate, it's subtle, and when it happens, you saw Amelia's fish just absolutely explode once hooked up in that shallow trough water. And I don't think there's anything better on the Bow River than that.